Alright, so we're back. Of course, we're talking FF7, we're talking Rebirth. We're back again, kind of unfortunately, to talk about good guy Sephiroth. There was a little quote from Nomura that's actually kind of old. It was tweeted out by Audrey, which is kind of why it's making the rounds now, a few days ago, where he talks about Sephiroth being a protagonist. So this obviously has the community talking enough that there's actually articles written about the tweet that she dropped, so I figured we'd discuss it too. As for the actual quote from Nomura, it's that bottom paragraph here that matters, where he says, "As far as Sephiroth being this extremely popular character, frankly, I'm very curious as to what makes him so attractive to users, because I hear this opinion very often. His appearance, firstly, I'm sure, but also perhaps there's something about his background that brings out a particular appeal to so many of the players that makes him this iconic character. And so, for Rebirth, I would think that besides Cloud, Sephiroth is also a protagonist that we can think of for this title." So I think where some of the confusion lies with this is that when somebody sees the term protagonist, they automatically think like good guy, main character status, right? Because most stories have like a protagonist and an antagonist, and you would normally think that Sephiroth would be an antagonist. But the thing is, like, the protagonist has like several different meanings. It's not just the main character of a story. Just a simple Google search of the word will tell you that a protagonist is like the lead character or one of the major characters of a story, essentially, right? So by that definition, Sephiroth has always been a protagonist. Really, any character, the villain of any Final Fantasy story, because they're one of the major characters, is always a protagonist, while also being the antagonist. And the problem with Audrey, sometimes whenever she tweets out information, whether it's translations or general information for Rebirth or FF7 Remake project, whatever, she'll present the information, but also in the same tweet give her opinions or thoughts or theories or whatever. And when she tweeted this out the other day, she threw out the Sephiroth redemption arc stuff, and it's like, there's a few things we can disagree on and have conversations on when it comes to the remake project, stuff like Zack's fate, Aerith's death, timeline stuff, whatever. We can have a back and forth discussion on this type of shit. But a Sephiroth redemption arc is, I'm telling you now, we give percentages a lot on the channel. 100% it's not happening. We're not getting a good guy Sephiroth in the story. It's simply not happening. And look, it's possible that she was kind of joking. She did throw out like the laugh cry emoji thing. Maybe she's trying to get the community riled up a bit, but she's definitely talked about it before. And this video is not even really necessarily about Audrey. It's just her tweet kind of sparked this information, sparked this discussion again, right? And it wouldn't make sense for Sephiroth to be a good guy this game, because this is a game where we're ending Forgotten Capital. This is a game where Sephiroth is going to kill Aerith. Now, whether that does or does not happen remains to be seen. But this is the game where he fucking kills Aerith. So how does it make any sense for him to be a good guy this game? If there was going to be a Sephiroth redemption arc, and there's not going to be, but if there was going to be, it'd be third game, right? And it'd be like end of the game type shit where he's trying to help us take down the big bad, whatever it's going to be. I'm sure who the big bad would be other than maybe Jenova. So like, what is even the concept or ideas behind a good guy Sephiroth or a redemption arc Sephiroth? Like, what is he like? Help us take down Jenova? Like, even if that was the case, what's the story beyond that? Like, if we take down Jenova and Sephiroth helps us, like, we're buddy with Sephiroth after all that? We just forget all the bad shit that he did? Even if it was under the influence of Jenova, it doesn't matter. He's still, like, fucking slaughtered everybody in Nibelheim. Or does he, like, sacrifice himself for everybody? So then that kind of ties up that loose end, so we don't have to, like, stay being friends or something with this Sephiroth, who's a good guy now. Like, I don't know. None of it makes any sense. But if it was gonna happen, if there was gonna be a good guy Sephiroth, third game. And the consensus I see from a lot of people in the community, and obviously my test pool, we'll call it, I guess, is small compared to like the overall fandom of FF7, but from what I see every time this conversation comes up is the majority of people, like most people, like 99% of people, don't want this. Nobody wants this. He's an iconic video game villain. He's one of the most iconic video game villains, right? Up there with like Bowser and Ganondorf, like iconic through the history of all of video games. One of the best villains ever. Why would they change that? Nobody wants that. I don't want that. I want to, like I said before in previous videos we've had this conversation, I want Sephiroth in the Remake project to be worse. I want this to be the worst version of him, the most evil he's ever been, doing crazy shit that we don't expect, right? I don't want him to be just the same as FF7. I want it to go further. I want to do something else. I don't know what. I don't know who he's going to kill or what he's going to do, besides the FF7 story, kind of however much they're following. But I want him to just be the evilest he's ever been, man. That's what I want from it. I don't want a redemption arc from Sephiroth. Like, my God, like it's like asking for like a President Shinra redemption arc. Who the fuck wants that shit? I think something else I've talked about before when it comes to this conversation in previous videos is like literally the beginning of Remake, whenever Cloud and Sephiroth have a conversation in the alleyway, like he's bragging to Cloud about killing his mom, like her last words and shit, talking about like the cold steel in her flesh or whatever the hell he says exactly. Like, he's fucking bragging about that shit. How do you get a redemption arc after that, right? He's to his face bragging about slaying his mother. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, a redemption arc beyond that. It's just ridiculous of a concept. I think the only thing that kind of backs the idea of like a good guy Sephiroth somewhat is like the pronouns that are used at the end of the game in like the Japanese version where it's like Ore Watashi or whatever, and like the way Sephiroth's talking, it's like pre-Nibelheim incident, so technically good guy Sephiroth, or so it's like him maybe breaking away from Jenova at the end of Remake or something along those lines. I think that's what it kind of stems from a little bit, but I'll be kind of wrong on that, or maybe not have all the information for it, but I just assume that that's kind of where the idea comes from. Other than that, I'm not really sure what sort of like evidence there is for a good guy Sephiroth or a redemption arc or whatever the fuck. But even then, like if he's trying to break away from her influence, it doesn't necessarily mean he's trying to become a good guy. And even with the original FF7, he was like controlling Jenova, right? Like he was the one from the North Crater. He was making her go out and do shit like through the guise of Sephiroth, right? And get the black materia, and with Cloud's help, of course, get the black materia to him and shit. Like, so yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't think there's anything that kind of supports the idea of him getting a redemption arc, really. Anyways, that's kind of it for the video, my dudes. Unless something like crucial comes up in the future that needs to be talked about in regards to this conversation, this should hopefully be the last time we talk about it. Because it's just like, it's repetitive. It's something, I'm saying stuff I've said in previous videos. We're kind of adding nothing to the conversation, from my point of view anyways. And I just think it's something that is just frankly not going to happen at all when it comes to Remake Project. Anyways, that's the video. Subscribe to if you guys are new, social networks in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, @SaberYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Low Gain, or leave it like Cobain.